I rise today to honor a longtime friend and a hero to veterans and to those who believe in justice in Ohio, Frank Anderson, a longtime leader of paralyzed veterans in Ohio who passed away last week from complications of an infection. Frank was a friend and a trusted advocate. He always spoke eloquently about issues facing veterans and people living with disabilities. Confined to a wheelchair as a paraplegic for the overwhelming majority of his adult life, Frank was soft-spoken yet larger than life with a commanding presence. As a leader of the Buckeye chapter of the Paralyzed Veterans Association, he drove himself to veterans events across Ohio. He spoke out against inequality and disability pay, and the barriers that face disabled veterans, from health care to transit accessibility to economic opportunity. He was a strong advocate for the Americans with Disabilities Act. He fought to ensure housing was affordable and accessible for all Americans. He testified in front of Congress on issues facing veterans in rural areas and would return that night to Cleveland to fight for veterans in cities. He would always do so the right way, prepared in facts and figures, armed with anecdotes and stories. Born in Cleveland in 1953, Frank Anderson graduated from East Tech High in 1971. In 1976, he left Bowling Green State University to enlist in the Ohio Army National Guard's 107th Armored Cavalry Regiment. In 1981, Frank was paralyzed after an 18-wheeler crashed into an Ohio National Guard convoy that he was traveling in. He recovered and rehabbed at what is now the Lou Stokes VA Medical Center in Cleveland, meeting other disabled veterans, hearing their stories, learning from them, all becoming advocates charged with helping veterans. While taking away his ability to walk for the rest of his life, the experience strengthened his will to serve and to live his life on his terms. He remained active in wheelchair sports, playing tennis, lifting weights, throwing a discus and a javelin. He became a longtime leader for all Americans with disabilities. He became a trusted leader in the African American community. He embraced life's challenges. He made the world better for all of us, even dressing up as Santa for children at the Cleveland Clinic's Children's Hospital. He traveled the country. He cooked his favorite seafood. He listened to his favorite old rhythm and blues music. I'd like to insert into the record Frank Anderson's obituary from the Cleveland Plain Dealer in a letter about Frank's life from Bill Lawson, president of the Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Without objection.
Mr. President, thank you. Frank served as Director of Government Relations for the Paralyzed Veterans Association's Buckeye chapter in my state. He served as Vice President of the Memorial Day Association of Greater Cleveland and a Commissioner of the Ohio Rehabilitation Services. He belonged to the Governor's Council on People with Disabilities, the ADA Ohio Network, the Maximum Accessible Housing of Ohio, and the Greater Cleveland RTA, the Transit System's Citizens Advisory Board. He was a trustee of the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial in downtown Cleveland, responsible for installing its wheelchair lift. I will miss Frank. I will miss his friendship, his wit, and his humor. But his state and nation will miss him more, his strong will and his dedication to public service and the lives he helped to improve. Frank was an inspiration to anyone in or out of a wheelchair, a tireless advocate whom everyone loved and respected. On Thursday, December 15th, a couple of days from now, at Mount Sinai Baptist Church on Woodland Avenue in Cleveland, Frank's family and friends will gather for his funeral, his going home. I wish I could be there. I will be here, but I wish I could be there to say goodbye, to join his wife, Joanne, their children, Yolanda, and Patrice, and Shaminda, and Tamika, and Franklin, and 7 grandchildren, and Frank's sister and 2 brothers. For them, I offer my condolences, but also reaffirm a commitment to serving Frank's cause on behalf of all disabled Americans, especially those who are disabled and paralyzed in service to our country. Thank you, Mr. President.